Hello, hello, and welcome to a special morning edition of Freedom Matters Live. I say morning because we're recording this episode number 21, on Friday morning. What's today's date? December 3rd. We're a little bit off this week because we had to work around our special guest schedule as well as mine. I had a difficult schedule this week as well. So we're recording this morning and then we're going to air this evening. So if you're watching, that's why we're off by a day. But I got my coffee, as you can see, and I am super excited to talk to today's guest. As I mentioned, it's Kendall Baker. And if you live on the west side of Houston and you haven't heard of Kendall Baker yet, then where have you been? He is the candidate for Houston ISD School Board, and he has been fighting like crazy this year to just get into office. He's right now he's in a runoff election, and that's why we are doing this episode. So if you live in his district, which, by the way, Kendall, I forgot which district it is. Once I bring you on, we'll talk about it. But if you live sort of in the Westheimer, Derry Ashford, south of I-10, and then east of the Beltway, that sort of area, sort of near Spring Branch, then you're probably in his district. So you need to look it up. He's in a hotly contested runoff election right now with the Democrat, with a very progressive liberal Democrat. And he needs you to get out and help him over the finish line, help him win. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Mr. Kendall Baker onto the stream. Hey, Kendall.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing wonderful.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for working us into your schedule this morning.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah. Okay, so as I was saying, can you give us your district number? I totally forgot.
District 6.
Okay, District 6. There you go. You got it on screen. And did I get that right as far as the location, the boundaries there? You may have a better interpretation.
West Houston, mainly one end starts at Briar Forest and Highway 6, and the other end is at Beltway 8 and West Airport.
Okay, got it. I have several friends.
It's like a huge L.
A huge L? It's an L shape?
Yeah.
That's kind of weird. Okay. Well, I have a few friends in this area. And so once we do this show, I'm going to tell them, hey, you got to go vote for him, help him. So I'm hoping a lot of people will share this, because the runoff election is December 11th. It's a Saturday, but the early voting is happening right now, right?
Early vote is underway. It started on Monday, November 29th. It goes through Tuesday, December 7th. And then the election day is on Saturday, December 11th.
Got it. So we have about 4 more days of early voting. So if you can't get out there on Saturday, which, everyone's always busy on a Saturday. So I don't like to leave it up to chance. I don't like to assume that I'm going to have my Saturday open. I want to go vote early. So yeah. That's my philosophy. But yeah, Kendall, so you and I have been talking over the past few days, and I feel like I know you much better now. I know your history a little bit, but just for people who don't know about you, can you give us a brief history of who you are, your career with the city of Houston, and even your work in the ministry? Just tell us a little bit about you.
I'm excited too. It's my honor. Again, thank you and good morning. Kendall here. I'm a native Houstonian. I grew up in Northeast Houston, over off of Homestead and Langley Road area. I graduated from Forest Brook Senior High School back in the 80s. And
good times.
I grew up with a mom and a dad. My father passed away 4 years ago. He was a pastor for over 50 years in the Church of God in Christ. And my mom worked in the medical field. She worked for St. Joseph Hospital for 30 years. My dad was also a pastor by vocation. He worked for General Electric for 33 years. And so I grew up out there. And after high school, I wanted to be a police officer at first. So I checked it out. Wasn't a good fit at the time. Then I started to go to the service. I checked it out. The Marines, front line. Wasn't a good fit at the time. And so I wind up taking an opportunity with the city of Houston at the tender age of 19. And I stayed there for nearly 30 years. And while working there, I started as a service clerk, and then I moved up to be a 911 dispatcher. Then from there, I took off to be 911 supervisor, and then moved over to public works and engineering, where I worked for consumer affairs. And then I noticed where my niche was customer service, whether emergency or non-emergency. So from consumer affairs, under one administration, the city decided to create, well, nationally, cities around the nation decided to create a 311, where they would combine all non-emergency services under one umbrella. So instead of calling 700 numbers, they used my department and my division as a model to start the 311. And that's where I remained until I left in 2013 for 29 years.
Gotcha. Okay. So you have a long history with the city of
Yeah,
Houston. You kind of know how, the city services and departments work, it sounds like. If you work there that long, you're going to pick up some stuff.
yeah, you will pick up a
Yeah,
whole lot.
yeah. And you're a pastor as well, is that right?
That's right. So in 2006, well, 1994, I answered my call to the ministry under my father's tutelage, and then in 2006, I founded and pastor now the Christ Solid International Church. And following my father's pattern and the Lord's leading, I pastored and worked at the same time. And we come up with the quote my dad always just remind us. It's in a song that only what you do for Christ will last. So that's still a passion of mine, and
Yeah,
I enjoy it till this day.
that's sweet. Yeah. Now, give me a little bit of your political background. I don't know if we've had this conversation or not. Have you always been a conservative, or did you sort of find your way into the Republican Party during your life, or what's that story?
Yeah, historically, my family voted Democrat throughout my life, mother, grandmother, and so forth, as many African Americans did in the Houston area.
Lyndon
But then,
Johnson's goal,
when,
right, to get
yeah,
the
but
Black Americans to vote for
yeah,
Democrats. He
right.
succeeded.
But one thing about me is that when I registered to vote at the age of 18, I've always voted selectively. So I voted for both parties, but I was registered with the Democrat Party. But when my eyes really, really opened up was during the second term of Obama, when he announced that it was same-sex marriage was okay for the whole world. The Lord spoke to me right then. I was convicted that if I vote or be associated with that again, the blood would be on my hands. So I actually vacated the party. I signed up with the Republican Party. I later became a precinct chair because the foundation of the Republican Party lines up very, very close to my thoughts and my morals and my beliefs. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
So it was a values issue. You said the
right.
Democrat Party has left my value system and is,
That's right.
basically it's under attack from the Democrat Party at this point, it sounds like. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I totally vacated the party, and no party is perfect and no man is perfect. But however, as we say, it lines up more with my biblical
Right.
values.
And we should point out, in order to be a Republican, you don't have to be a Christian. It's not that, so for me, I'm more of a libertarian, and I
Mhm.
feel like, we shouldn't be using government to enforce values. But the great thing about, conservatism and the Republican Party is they just want you to be able to live your life and, have these values that aren't under attack by the federal government. And it's all about choice, right? It's all about having the freedom to worship as you see fit. And the Democrat Party at this point seems like they just want to shut down anyone who doesn't agree with them, who doesn't align with them.
That's
They're the
true.
authoritarian party at this point.
That's true. And the key words for me, you just mentioned one, are faith, family, and freedom. And
Right?
those are the basics of the party. And you don't have to be Christian. You're right. And that's the thing about living in America. You
Yeah.
know, you can be free to make your choices based on
Right.
your own conviction. So I'm
Right.
careful to say my conviction, my beliefs,
Hmm.
my morals,
And that's what we
which is
see
right.
slipping away at this point, the ability to choose for your life what's best for you as an American. There's one party that wants to take that away. And I think a lot of people in the Democrat Party don't even realize how it's sort of how they've sort of been had the wool pulled over their eyes. They've been co-opted by these authoritarian leaders who do have the goal of taking over our country and removing those freedoms. A lot of people just vote Democrat and they don't even know what they're voting for. They think, oh, I'm voting for, the ability to marry whoever you choose, or I'm voting for, equal pay for women and men. But it's such a shiny, argument it's attractive, but it's only attractive on the surface level until you look deeper into these issues and see who's really behind it. And, if you're going to achieve these goals, how are they going to achieve these goals? They want to take away freedom in order to, equalize things across the board.
You are exactly right about that. And the bamboozling has been going on for years, brainwashing, indoctrination. It's been going on for years. But however, during this race, I've run across several young African-American males. I know I can remember particularly, and a few, more than a few, are waking up now. People are beginning to see the big lie. And so we're going to probably see some
it's
things
encouraging.
Soon. I really believe, based on what I've been seeing and who I've been talking to.
Yeah. And I think COVID woke up a lot of people too. It's like, hey, this doesn't seem right. What's going on? It woke up people across all party lines to, some issues. So yeah, it's an awakening. It's slowly happening, I believe.
Yeah. I've been talking to people, and with the mask mandates, the vaccine mandates, they heard the word mandate. They're saying, wait, this is close to, it sounds like communism a little bit.
Yeah.
Sounds a little bit like socialism. And these are coming from some young folk, of all races. It seems like people are becoming awake now more and more. And I pray that more and more people become awake.
Because young people are skeptical these days. I mean, if the internet and social media has done anything, it's made the younger generation very skeptical and very almost cynical, right? But that's a double-edged sword, right? Because it's a good thing that they are questioning things more when things don't seem fun. Yeah.
That's right. Because I was talking.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was telling my baby girl that when we were growing up, we didn't have the iPhones and stuff. I got her one when she was 5, and so I said, we didn't even have beepers. And I said, when the first phone came out, it was like carrying a big briefcase, and you had these old phones. Like, I even showed her examples how it looked, one of these like that. You hold that up, you carry it down the street.
A little kid doesn't even know what that is at this point. Yeah.
Not at all. Not at all. So funny. It's funny in a way.
We've come so far. I know it. Okay, so I want to talk about your opponents. And when I say opponents, I say this because you've had difficulty from both sides of the aisle at this point, right? Because you had a Republican opponent who did not make the runoff election, who seems to not be supporting you at this point. And then you've got the Democrat who you are in the runoff election with. So tell me a little bit about these people and what you're dealing with.
Yeah. Well, in the beginning, there were 2 Republicans in the race, me and Greg Digger. And he called me out of the blue one day and said, look, Kendall, if you win, I'll endorse you. And if I win, you'll endorse me. And so here's my number and take it. But then all of that changed after the general election. All that changed, and he began to scrutinize me more and tell me my platform wasn't clear enough for him. And it began to just dig off him and his campaign consultant, Amy Holsworth, began to just dig all into my background and things that are not pertaining to the school board race and things like that, and just began to do things that were totally off track. And so I said, wow. So what we call those type are Republican in name only, in a way, and I'm not here to just bash anybody because that's not my character. But we do call that activity RINO activity. And then so I had to deal with that. And then also I had to deal with my Democrat opponent at the same time.
You can't even focus on fighting Democrats because you're fighting Republicans too.
In my own party. And then we had that. And then we had her getting hold and her group that sponsors her, GPS Action, getting hold of the same information. And now they've totally left the script and left the race issues and the issues that's involving HISD and then decided to attack me personally. And that's what happens, I've learned, when you're losing. So desperation, I mean, causing for desperate actions, and but some of it's uncalled for. Some
Yeah.
of it's uncalled for.
Yeah. And we should say they have taken these actions against you after the November 2nd election. You know, Greg Digger is out of the race and they're still attacking you, right? I mean, Amy Holsworth's Facebook page is just covered with, you know, a smear campaign against you at this point. And I believe that those are recent posts, right?
Yeah, I saw that, and you know, me being a man of the cloth and having a gentle spirit, I saw it. I was a little troubled about it. I prayed about it, but I wanted to come on your show to talk about it a little bit, as much as I'm able to,
Set the
and
record
then
straight, right?
straight, but also stay on point with the issues at hand.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to address the attacks against you and show just how baseless they are, how they're really digging for stuff. So let's talk about the first one. I actually received one of their mailers this week, and just for the audience to know, I messaged Kendall and said, "Hey, have you seen this mailer and all the bullet points they got against you?" And we had a long conversation where we covered each one. So the first thing they say here is that you have a pattern of child neglect, as they have discovered from your divorce papers. So you have gone through a divorce. You do have a young daughter now. And as we all know, divorces get very messy. And I always take that as a grain of salt if someone's digging out divorce statements. So just tell us a little bit about that, just as much as you're comfortable sharing.
Yeah, well, you know, as you said it all, I mean, divorces are messy sometimes, and every marriage don't work. And so, you know, no, I've never neglected my baby. Everybody knows I'm Father of the Year. I love her. She's, in fact, here with me now. She comes every Thursday. And if you go down my Facebook page, you see she travels all over the country with me. And so basically, have a situation where we were deserted for a little while by my ex-wife. But you know, since then, but when that happened, I had to go on the protection and make sure that I had put some things in place to keep my daughter safe during the time of our divorce. And as painful as these things are here to talk about, they're not the issue at hand. But I want the public to know that, you know, that happened. Those things that she said about me are not true, but things happen during divorces. People know, people can relate. I'm human, and but my daughter is safe. Kennedy, come here. She's here with me now. But the thing I won't stand for is when you have big political action groups like GPS Action. Say hello.
Hello.
Hey, Kennedy. Hey, tell everybody how old you are.
I'm 6.
You're 6. Well, you look like a fantastic grown-up 6-year-old. I thought you were 12.
Give that a kiss. And so, but one of the things I won't stand for is like when you have Greg Digger, Amy Holmesworth, and GPS Action, and those parties that do that, they expose my daughter to harm when they placed her name on there and expose my divorce to the world. They can place her in home. If you place one 6-year-old daughter in harm's way, what does that say about protecting the 197,000 children at HISD? You know, when I ran for mayor, they didn't go below the belt like that. But now that I'm running for HISD, they decided to go below the belt when they started losing, only when they started losing. And so I'm a great father. I'm a proud father. She's my only child. And everybody knows I love Kennedy. Everybody knows. In fact, you know, I helped name her, you know, Kendall, Kennedy. Get it? So
she's Kendall Jr.
She's my sidekick. And one thing Kennedy told me, Daddy, you know, you still come pick me up, even though you're running for office. And that's why she's here now. She says, I'll walk with you. I'll knock on doors with you. And she said one of the things about knocking on doors as it as it relates to walking, she says, it's even better than Disney World. I said, really? Why do you say that? She said, because the walks are shorter and you get a break at every door. And I was like, Oh, girl, you're so funny. She has a great sense of humor.
Wow. Better than Disney World. That's pretty good.
Yeah, but these
A lot
organizations need
cheaper
to
too.
know that when you hit below the belt like that, could possibly put children in harm's way. And I'm gonna protect my baby.
Yeah.
I gotta protect her. She's our only one. Her mother loves her. I love her, and we sometimes have to know that some things need to be,
Mhm.
untouchable. You shouldn't go there.
Yeah.
Some things should not be in the equation at all. But they chose to go there.
Yeah.
But we're going to set the record straight today. That never happened. That didn't
Right.
happen. And all divorces, some divorces are messy, and some relationships don't work. And
Mhm.
sometimes people say some things out of, to protect themselves because they made a mistake.
Right.
And she made, my ex-wife made a little mistake by leaving us, but I forgave her, and I still love her. I love my family, and
Mhm.
I'm a forgiving person. But that's not what the discussion is all about. The discussion is our race for
Yeah.
HISD
Right.
and the
Right.
issues that are facing our children, in
And I
which we're
should
going to talk
add,
about.
if you were a neglectful father, I don't think you would have custody of your daughter at this point. And you've
That's
been,
right.
fully exonerated, I hear, from investigations that were set off by false accusations by your wife. Yeah,
Right.
you
She
wouldn't
also,
you wouldn't be
right.
having your daughter walking door to door with you in your campaign if you were a neglectful
No,
father.
no, I have expanded visitation, the most you can get,
Yeah.
in this level. I keep
Mhm.
her 45% of the time, and I enjoy every moment with her. And you're right, her and the family are from Nigeria, and they even called the CPS on me and made some lies about me on there,
Yeah.
and they quickly ruled it out. They say, we've seen the scenario before, and
Mhm.
that, my friend, is not you, Mr. Baker. And
Yeah.
so they closed that out and ruled it out. And if you look at the paperwork, it says counter petition. I actually filed the original petition because I noticed that things were not working out, and I needed to put some things in place to protect my assets and our daughter, keep her
Yeah.
protected and safe and strong. And that's what happened.
Yeah. So your ex-wife was probably unhappy with that, and she filed these false statements as a result. Yeah. It
Exactly.
happens. It happens in divorce, and it's just really pathetic that they're pulling that up, putting it on a mailer in this election. That just shows, like you said, how desperate they are, that
And,
they're
and, and
losing.
in a way, Becky, I said, if I have to take that hit for the love of my daughter, you know, so shall it be. If I have to take that hit
Yeah.
for the love of all the children and the desire to protect and make HISD better,
Right.
then so shall it be.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Okay, so the next thing on this mailer, it was saying that there were allegations of harassment by women that you had worked with under Mayor Parker in the government office that you were a part of at that time. So tell us a little bit about that ordeal. That sounds like it was a very painstaking point in your life.
It was very painstaking, Becky, but now I'm stronger now. Uh, Back in 2013, after having spent 29 years with the city, 25 of those years, I'm proud to say, I had a perfect attendance record. And then 21 of those years, I had either a strong or an outstanding job performance rating. I never had any discipline on my file in all of my years with the city of Houston.
Yeah, you were a pretty good
So
employee. Sounds like people liked working with
thank
you.
I'm a people person. I hired people that from all over. I hired people that needed jobs, and things of that nature, treating people fair. Um, uh, didn't really terminate a lot of people when I worked there. Wasn't a mean boss. What you see now is basically what I was in. Gentle spirit and kind. My job was to process 20,000 calls a day regarding water, sewer problems, potholes, um, you name it, 311. In fact, they use my voice for free. Thank you for calling the 311 Houston Service Helpline.
That's
Back
pretty good.
then, thank you.
You can
And
have a second
then,
career in radio now.
Yeah. And then during the summer of 2013, out of nowhere, uh, the allegations came up that I had sexually harassed some ladies. They didn't tell me who it was. They kept me in the dark. I knew nothing about anything. And so an employee there, I found out later on, was used by upper management, and the mayor was aware and staged the whole thing against me. All the employees wrote and signed affidavits, staged. There was no proof, no evidence, nothing to back it up, no collaboration. And they said that I sexually harassed three ladies and that I asked a man for an offering from my church on the job. And all of that was completely false. When they interviewed the ladies over at the Civil Service Commission, one of the ladies said, they asked her when. She said, I think April of '04. When? May of '04. And when? June of '04. July of '04. And she was just making a joke out of the whole situation, even
Just kept
during the
naming the
hearing.
months.
And they still allowed that to pass through. And it was painful. Gary Pollan was my attorney at the time. Very, very smart family and criminal attorney. And, I just thought I'd use him there to come on in because I felt something strong coming against me. Who wouldn't, after having 29 years, almost 30 years of city with a perfect and clean record? So they came at me with all of that, and they interviewed them one by one. And then the city has, the state of Texas is a right to fire state, and the director and the mayor has the last say so. And so they had the last say so. They signed off on it. And my immediate director was a guy who I was with just about every day at the job. He could account for all of my time. He knew where I was from 8 to 5, basically. And we went to lunch together. I spent a lot of time because our job was to improve customer service with the city of Houston. Our job was to make it easier for citizens to get their sewer line unstopped, to get potholes fixed. We were taskmasters. We did not have time for any playing around at our job. It wasn't a lax atmosphere. It's a high, tense atmosphere. You go there to work, you go to go home. And during that time, I was also happily married at the time. My wife would even sometimes come to the job, visit me. We had lunch, oftentimes. Everybody knew who she was. Everybody knew who I was. Everybody knew I was a happy, young man. Never been a womanizer. Not that type. It ain't me. I have brothers who were, but not me. And so when that came, like you said, it was a painful time in my life. I fought it the best I could. And so my director signed off of it under pressure, he later told me. And then the mayor signed off of it. And then he later told me when he retired, called me up and said, Kendall, I'm retired now, and I can tell you what I didn't tell you before. The mayor wanted you out. Mayor Nice Parker wanted me out. And so
Now
he
it's
told
clear.
me that. Frank told me that. And I said, well, Frank, I knew. And, one of my old ministers told me a long time ago, he says, Kendall, see, because while you're out there being an activist with the preachers, I'm also a minister against crime. It's a group that's been working in the city for a long time, associating themselves with the Houston Independent School District, fighting crime, trying to prevent crime, helping youngsters, both male and female, trying to, keep them out of trouble and give them alternatives in life to stay away from trouble. While we were out there, we worked, being activists against a lot of Mayor Parker's policies. And one of the things I'll tell you is that it's kind of hard to be a city employee in a management position and being out in the public, being a public activist at the same time. So it was a time bomb waiting to explode, but I didn't see it that way because I thought whatever you do on your private time would be separated from the city.
Yeah, you would think.
The late Bishop Robert Jefferson told me one day, he said, she gonna get you. She gonna get you. I said, but I don't see how. I just didn't see it because I had such a clean record of pristine. But they found a way to do it. And the only way you can do that is to lie on somebody and stage it. And so I want to let you know, looking you dead in your eyes, that's exactly what happened. The Texas Workforce Commission they had a similar hearing because the city, if they terminate you, they don't want you to get your unemployment. So the Texas Workforce Commission had the same hearing with the same employees, and within minutes, they saw straight through it and ruled in my favor and said the city had fired me for no reason. So
Wow.
when the people say fired, not retired, I am retired. Right after the termination, it took a few months, but my retirement kicked in. So I am retired
That's
from
good.
the city. And so
Because
you
of your
can,
exoneration with Texas workforce.
yeah, I was exonerated, but
That's great.
Either way, Becky, none of that would have never ever affected my retirement. It was just an administrative decision. With the city of Houston, administrative decisions don't affect your retirement.
Okay.
So yeah, it'll always kick in automatically. So I've
I
been
see.
retired and blessed from there since 2015. And what I don't, uh, what I do miss is helping citizens. That's what my heart is: helping citizens, public service. And so I'll never regret a citizen that I've helped over those 30 years that I work for the city. I'll never regret one problem that I saw from those years.
And that's really sad too, because it sounds like you loved your job. You did a good job, perfect attendance for all those years. You did your job well, at least from an outsider looking at your testament here. I mean, that's so sad. They lost a great employee, a great member of their staff, all because you didn't agree with Mayor Parker politically and you spoke out publicly on that, and she felt the need. How petty do you have to be to come after one of your employees just because they disagree with you,
Yeah, she used employees to do it, and all of the employees who were involved, I later found out, all of them were promoted, given bonuses, all of them. And
they were rewarded.
Wow, they were rewarded for their activities.
Yeah, that's so sad. Okay, so that's the ordeal, with Mayor Parker and your job in her office or as a government employee. So
I want to use my hand and say, I want to say that was that. Now that's behind me.
In the past.
Yeah.
Thank goodness, right? Moving on to greener pastures.
Yeah, that's behind me.
Right. Okay, so the topic of guns in schools. This is such a political football, right? Nobody wants to really talk about it. Of course, the left thinks that any guns in schools are, terrible, even if you are a concealed handgun license carrier, right? But a conversation that's been happening lately in the Republican Party is, hey, maybe these people who already carry licensed handguns on their personal time, maybe they should, if they are well trained, maybe they should be there in the classroom, privately armed and ready to defend their students if some crazy person walks into the school with a gun. Because here's the thing, the bad guys who have guns are not going to follow the rules, right? They are going to get those guns and they're going to shoot people that they don't like, or they're going to carry out their dirty deeds. So why don't we arm people who are good, who are well trained? That's me talking. I want you to give your own personal opinion, because in this mailer that we received, it just said flat out, Kendall Baker supports allowing guns in kindergartens. It's funny, right? How they don't just say guns in schools, they say guns in kindergartens. Like, you want 5-year-olds to be your own guns all the time. So why don't you just let us know what you actually think about this topic?
That's actually another smear tactic. I did answer a survey that said I support teachers licensed with license permit carriers to be able to have a gun. That question came up during the survey, but if I had a chance to elaborate, and you're giving me a chance this morning,
sure.
I want to say that I am a licensed, and very responsible gun owner, and my gun stays in the house most of the time. But if you just be honest and look at the statistics and I pulled up a few statistics between 2009 and 2018, there were 180 school shootings in the United States. 356 students, teachers, and administrators fell victim to gun violence because of those shootings. And so coming from a 911 background, and then, of course, being minister against crime and having the desire to be a police officer at one point, when you work for 911, you have to go through some serious examinations. We've had some experts from FBI. We had experts from all over, even before we got on the phone, just to be a 911 telecommunicator. I'm under the impression that we need to be proactive before we have another massive shooting again. This need to be a discussion and a collaborative effort, not just by Kendall, but by all parties, other school board members, and then local, state, and federal law enforcement officials to see what can we do to be more proactive. Now, my research also revealed that mental depression was one of the reasons that was behind people becoming violent one day. And so we need to put more resources into, detecting and treating mental issues and mental awareness and so forth to try and prevent that. But also we need to consider to have certain people that are trained, whether it be teachers or more of support staff, trained and not identified by anyone. This is just an idea, not known by anyone. Someone there to stop the carnage in that 1 to 11 minutes, sometimes up to 15 minutes that it takes for for first responders to get there, because in those 15 minutes, as we saw just 2 days ago, 3 people were killed and several others were injured. Were in Michigan, I believe, and so it's gonna get worse and worse. We saw in Santa Fe all the shooting, all the carnage. I think 10 people were killed in the school there at Santa Fe. And so what I mentioned there on that iVoter guide, and that was just an idea. But I think we should sit down and come up with ways. I do agree. If you have responsible people, individuals that are trained maybe with FBI training, maybe with extensive police local training, they could be there, because the campus police are not going to be there all the time. And we don't want them walking around and look like a prison all day.
And they can't be in every classroom.
I think, look, I'm not the first person to mention that. We have Republican senators have already passed some legislation in 2015. We have campus carry on college campuses, but we may need to extend that somehow, whether it's metal detectors, whether it's a few people that are trained, that are only known by police officers. To do that, we have to prevent the carnage, because I don't want our children to be sitting ducks. I don't.
Right. The old adage, an armed society is a polite society, is so true. And that mentality can only just be extended into schools, right? If you had an armed teacher every couple of classrooms, you're not going to have a lot of carnage if a crazy person walks into the school. It's just logical common sense.
It's just logical common sense. And so, but them to put that on the card to say that I wanted guns in kindergarten, it's just straight out lie. It's just a smear tactic. And again,
that's words.
On the west side, the support is just ramped up. And when you feel like you're losing, you get desperate. And again, like you said earlier, all this stuff didn't come up till now. Yeah. But I did mention it, but in a much more constructive, professional way, controlled way, comprehensive way. And then, of course, not a decision made solely by me, but a collaborative by me and other officials from all over.
Yeah, I like that. And I think I've heard you mention before as well that these concealed carry teachers would be private. No one would know which teachers are carrying, and that's for their safety and, just for overall safety of the school, right? You don't want these students who might be unhinged knowing that this teacher has a gun maybe strapped to their chest, so
that's part of my idea. That was part of my idea. No one would know, but who needs to know? Need to know only. And I would think law enforcement would know, maybe the superintendent maybe would know. It would be highly, highly, highly private, who knows, but these people will be trained. They will know. And parents will know that, look, when I drop my child off and they're at the school most of their life, all day, every day, then at least I have another level of security in my mind that if the devil begin to start to jump in somebody and they come to school with a crazy idea and want to do something because they had a bad day or saw something on YouTube somewhere. We have someone there to stop the carnage and stop the fatalities and minimize the casualties before the first responders arrive.
Yeah, exactly. Funny story. My husband's home church that he grew up in is a small country church, and sometimes we go and attend. And about 90% of the men in that church are carrying on any given Sunday, and it's like I feel so safe, you know. his uncle runs the sound booth in the back, and he's a police officer who's got that gun strapped to his chest, and he's going to see anyone who walks in the back before the rest of us do. And it's like, you know, when you got good people who are ready to defend you, you feel safe. You feel good. It's logical.
A good point, Becky, because you're right. We even had a meeting. I used to be the chairman of the Houston Police Department Clergy, Police and Clergy Alliance. And we had a presentation one day on the increase in church shootings. Same thing in church. Church members were sitting ducks. And just, you're right. Church is a little bit, I guess, you know, you have your own you know, what you call it, you can make your own decisions there as a church leader, so forth and so on.
Right.
So you can decide who wants to. So a lot of churches now, you're right, are armed, have deacons that are armed, ready, because it's on the
you're
rise.
A group of people that there are people in the world who don't like you, and you just have to be ready to defend yourself.
We need to be ready. And a lot of churches are ready now. You're right about that. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, it's a good thing. Yeah,
the churches can do it. Why can't we do it in the schools?
Exactly. Okay, so that sort of covers the attacks on you by your opponents on both sides of the aisle, unfortunately. I do want to switch to your platform and your beliefs about these different topics. And you know, we've talked now for 42 minutes. So if we want to do like rapid fire, maybe just go through each topic. You give us a few points, and you know, kind of your stand on it, and we can get a better view of who Kendall Baker is and what you're going to be pushing for when you're in office. So the first topic we have is decreasing taxes. Oh, my heart warmed when I read this on your website. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so you know, being a good trustee, we got to be a great steward of taxpayer dollars, and so we know that budget at HISD is out of control, and so there are a lot of opportunities there to cut. It is top heavy. You got a lot of heaviness in the administration building itself. A lot of positions there that are given as favors and not for merit or for any other reason. We got to find a way to really decrease taxes from A to Z, from cutting there, from reviewing the departments, seeing what's there, seeing what's necessary, seeing what's not. I said when I start the job, I will first have a detailed and microscopic look at the current budget and make recommendations and cuts as needed. For example, the central offices, as well as SSO positions, and so forth and so on. We got to make sure that taxpayer dollars are being allocated properly. The HISD is saying that they have decreased property taxes, but they really haven't, because each year, as you know, properties are evaluated and properties go up. And so we got to find a realistic way to come up with a real decrease, a reduction in property taxes, even if it's a 0.5 per year or 0.1. We got to really look at the facts and stop lying to the people.
Yeah. So they can say, oh, well, look, we decreased the percentage of property taxes you pay. But at the same time, what I've heard is they're encouraging these, what do you call it? The evaluators, the people who value the property, to increase the property values. And so in the end, the homeowner is still paying more, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And so we want to look at the budget and make some tough decisions, and you got to do that. And with my years with the city of Houston, we had to do that there. The budget wasn't $2 billion in my division, but we did deal with a $7 million budget. And so I do have some experience with the fiscal year budget and how to decrease and stop spending money, stop wasting money.
Yeah. Great.
A lot of experience with that.
Yeah, so let's talk about empowering parents and students. I like to hear that. I mean, a lot of the issues we're having at the school board meetings today is parents coming in and saying, hey, you're not listening to me. I do not like the direction you're moving as far as requiring a mask on my child. I don't like what you're doing with critical race theory. And a lot of parents have been digging into these libraries. Katie ISD had, I think it was Katie, it might have been Fort Bend, one of the schools in one of those districts had some really inappropriate books in the library that the children could check out. So I think a lot of parents are feeling like the public school system does not care about them, doesn't want to hear what they have to say. And so tell us a little bit about how you're going to, I guess, listen to the parents.
Yeah, so I want to, my background is listening to people. My background is, customer service and consistency. So I want to build a coalition consisting of a multi-sectoral coalition of people involving school personnel, parents, civic leaders, political leaders, business community leaders, and ordinary citizens to engage with, to take question and answers, implement some of their ideas. And as you said earlier, the way the agenda is set up with the weekly meetings, that's just a small change. Bring all of the public speakers and make them first, period. Don't make them wait. Anyone wait 3 hours to speak. That's just a small thing we can do. But beyond that, I want the parents' voice to be heard. I'm going to go back and ask, as I told some sisters yesterday, I want to take your ideas. I want to take your concerns and see if we could, implement some and fix some of those things, and not our own and not the special interest groups. Because currently the board is run by special interest groups, unions, and things of that nature. I want to change that. I want to be an actual real voice for the citizens, starting in District 6. And then if it's a great model, we'll use it for the rest of the district.
Yeah. You're going to make some powerful enemies with that kind of an approach, right? Taking on the unions and the special interest groups. But the comforting thing is you've already been through this. You've already fought, Mayor Parker in the city of Houston with your previous job. So it sounds like you're the person to do that.
Yeah, you got to. I mean, you got to make enemies, but at the same time, you got to be a bargain. You got to be a negotiator. You got to come up with, mutual agreements and so forth. So I believe that, if you get the right people there, you could come up with some mutual agreements. You got to give a little, get a little, and so forth. But one thing I won't do is get down there and be a part of what I call the go along, get along game. Like everything goes, No, I'm not for sale and I can't be bought.
Right. That's great. So another topic that you had on your site was transparency. That's something we don't see a lot of these days. So how do you want to achieve more transparency?
Yeah, just make the budget available for everyone to see. Make things that have been hidden in the past be there and be discovered, except for things that may cause a conflict of interest. As I learned the job, I'm not going to say I know it all, but I'm a quick learner. But being transparent, just that. Keep it plain, keep it simple. Show them the cards, nothing to hide. Things that people want to know about the school district. Things that people will say, because I know when you work for the city, they say, no, don't shout it. No. If it's releasable, let the people know. And starting with District 6, I'm going to have in my coalition building, probably have a system of emails or texting or some way to keep in constant contact with my citizens and with the people here and let them know what's going on. So totally transparent from
weekly
the
updates.
front to the back door.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, better pay for teachers. It seems like it's on everyone's agenda. How do you hope to achieve that?
It is. It's a huge issue, as with city workers and teachers and even regular HISD workers. Some of your lower level, lower skill workers, their pay is below average as it compares to the same work around the nation. So with teachers, we want to make sure that they get in. We need to make the base salary of the teachers at least 75,000, because right now it's around 50 or so. And the minute they get in there, many of the great teachers, they transfer to another district or transfer into an administration position. We want to see what it takes to keep them there and motivate them there, and then develop a performance-based incentive program, maybe perhaps not only based on their performance, maybe like police officers did. If you live in a district, there's an incentive and things of that nature. Just be more creative with them. But
Yeah.
definitely we need to start by raising the base salary because we're losing too many qualified teachers to other districts and to administrative positions.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a basic tenet, even in the private sector, right? If you want to keep good people, you have to pay them what they're worth, or they'll just move somewhere else where they will get paid that much. So I agree with that,
Yeah.
especially if you can, still reduce the budget and remove big spending from areas that do not matter and put it toward teacher salaries. That's a very noble goal to have. Yeah.
Yeah, that $2 billion budget, you look at it, it's online. You can see that there are some ways where you can do some cutting, some shifting, and some increasing, and you can still come up with a way to decrease the taxes. It can be done if you just take some time out and do it, and and do your job as a trustee, and not allow others to do your
Right.
job for you. These special interest groups and people that want to make money and take money from our pockets because we're the taxpayers for their own corporations and so forth. So where there's a will, there's a way. We're going to get it done.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, the last thing I have here is you want to expand career and technology education. That always seems like a good thing.
Yeah, back in the days, we used to call it trade school, trades and codes. And so not every student goes straight to college. I didn't go straight to college. I went later on in life, where I got my doctors of divinity from Kingdom Builders Bible Seminary. So not every student want to go straight to college. You have a lot of successful people that are self-made millionaires. And so why don't we make those trades available? And I said expand it to more high schools, because right now it's only at a limited high school, a few high schools. I want to see what it takes to expand it, if not to all high schools, those trades and codes, mechanic, plumber. I used to be a plumber back in the days, and plumbing is a great career.
We need people in those careers.
My dad, we need them. My dad also taught me to do roofing. We did roofing coming up, things of that nature. Hairdressing. My niece does my hair. And she has a business degree, but her heart and her passion is in hair. A shout out to my niece at Kendrea's Creations. But we need to expand the trades and codes, giving the students more options for those that don't want to go straight to college.
I agree with you 1,000%. I mean, when I was in high school in the early 2000s, I mean, the trade schools weren't even mentioned. It was just, oh, do you want this white collar job? It was all of these jobs that it was a prerequisite to go to college for. And it's so sad that, I mean, I went to a small school in a small rural town, and a lot of my fellow students didn't go to college. They started their own business and became things like plumbers and carpenters. But they did that on their own without any encouragement from the school system. And if the school system would just say, hey, because the thing is, I know a lot of people who did go to college and they wasted 4 years and tens of thousands of dollars on a degree that they didn't need just to start a business, for a basic, technical job like that. Yeah.
That's right.
So I love it. I love it. We need more of that way of thinking in schools. So, well, Kendall, that's all I have. Is there anything else you want to add here? I guess we want to encourage people to go vote this week and next week.
Yeah, we're at a time now, even though this is a nonpartisan position, and it's in the morning, so excuse me if my energy sounds a little low, but they've made it into a partisan theme down there. We need to bring stability back. Math, science, social studies. The critical race theory is a danger to bring it into our classrooms today. We don't want our children to go to school and be resentful of one another. It teaches that I'm the oppressed and a white person is the oppressor, and white privilege and things of that nature. That is not something that my 6-year-old, 7-year-old need to be focusing on. They need to be focusing on the basics, because education and success starts with the basics. If you vote for me, we go back to the basics and we bring some stability back to HISD and make it a school district of choice again. Voting, as you said earlier, begin in this runoff election on Monday, November 29th, and it ends on Tuesday, December 7th. And then the big day, election day, is on Saturday, December 11th, 2021. I want to be the people's voice for the school district, bringing conservative values and morals back to the education system, I want to be your voice for education, your voice for Houston. Kendall Baker for District 6 trustee.
That's
Thank you so
amazing,
much.
Kendall. I'm going to pull that quote out and I'm going to put it in our episode notes. Kendall Baker, I want to be your voice, the voice for Houston. Yeah, I love it. I love it. So people get out and vote. And even if you're not in Kendall's district, we should mention the other 2 runoff elections, right? We have Caroline Walter in district, I'm going to say 4. Oh, I'm bad with this.
Yeah, me too, because I've been so
you're focused on yours.
We have Caroline Walters, who's running HISD District 5. And right next to her, we have Bridget Wade, who's running HISD District 7. So we have 5, 6, and 7 all up for election. And they are excellent candidates that's running. And then we have one more that's running in District 1, Linda. I want to get her name right.
I don't even know her.
Yeah, Ms. Garza. Yeah, okay. I don't know much about her, but she's running in District 1. But most conservatives say that she is, the one that is very close to our values as well. Forgive me, ma'am, for not getting your name right. But she's in District
Garza.
1.
Okay, District 1. Okay. Well, Well, thank you, Kendall. And we're going to try to spread this video far and wide and let people know about you and get out and vote for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity to share.
Yes, sir. Thank you for joining us. Okay.
You're welcome.
See you next time.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.